Good afternoon and welcome. For those of you who are with us for the General Property and Casualty Industry meeting, welcome back. For those of you who are just joining us, welcome to the Maryland Insurance Administration's preparation for the 2022 hurricane season meeting. My name is Kathleen Borain and I serve as the Maryland Insurance Commissioner. I am looking forward to an informative discussion today. The National Weather Service is predicting a very active 2022 hurricane season. And the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the Maryland Insurance Administration's disaster response and to find out from you what challenges or issues you are anticipating as we move further into the storm season. The agenda has been posted, or a link to the agenda has been posted in the chat room. So if you don't have it, that's available for you to pick that up now. But before we begin that agenda, I'd like to take just a moment to introduce my colleagues from the Maryland Insurance Administration who will be participating in this meeting. So first, Robert Barron, the Associate Commissioner for Property and Casualty.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks.
Mary Quay, Mary Quay, the Associate Commissioner for Market Regulation and Professional Licensing. Joy Hatchett, the Associate Commissioner for Consumer Education and Advocacy.
Good afternoon.
Mary Jo Rogers, the Supervisor for Consumer Education and Advocacy Unit.
Good afternoon, everyone.
And you know Craig I, who is our Director of Communications.
Well, welcome.
The public industry meeting is being recorded today and will be posted on the Maryland Insurance Administration website. We do have a full agenda, but as time and technology allow, we do want to hear from you. So please let us know using the chat function that you'd like to speak or ask a question. To help ensure excellent sound and video quality throughout the meeting, we ask that you please stay on mute with your video off unless you are speaking. And now I'll turn it over to Joy Hatchett, who will guide us through the meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner. So I know a lot of you have attended these meetings with us before, and what we're going to go over, you may have heard before, but I think it's really important that we repeat it just because, as the Commissioner noted, the National Weather Service is calling for a very busy season. And as we all know, since we've been engaged in this through our CAT teams and attempting to help policyholders, it only takes one event to ruin someone's life. So the steps that we take now to prepare are really, really critical. So I just want to take a couple of minutes to tell you and remind you what the MIA has already done and what we'll continue to do during these sunshine days. Basically, as you all know, we have a team of dedicated people here within the MIA that if in fact we have an event, we have trained them and they're ready to assist policyholders. And we assist obviously in a multitude of ways. We can assist them over the phone. We can assist them by actually going to disaster centers. And Craig will talk a little bit more later on about how we've now been able to assist them having virtual disaster centers. But critical to our ability to assist these consumers, at the beginning of the year, everyone saw the bulletin and had to give us your disaster contact information. And my assistant, Joyce Peach, reached out to those of you with some reminders, making sure that you filed that disaster contact information with us. And as the bulletin indicated, it's critical. If you have people that are in your organization that were your disaster contact, that leave your organization, you must, and I repeat, you must update that information. What we do not want to have is some type of a disaster and we need information from the company and we can't reach you. So make sure if there are any changes, even if the person is still there, but there's an email change or phone number change, please make sure that you reach out to us and let that be known. And I also want to say that over the years, we have most of our carriers report that contact information electronically. There are still some of you that are reporting or have reported either by sending in a fax, an email, or something like that, which would mean that Joyce would have to manually enter that information. You all know that a couple of years ago, we now are able to require everything be done electronically. So starting next year, 2023, all disaster contact information must be filed electronically. If you file it, either sending us an email or fax or mailing it, we still get some snail mail. Joyce will be promptly notifying you that that's not acceptable, that you must file electronically. And if you have any issues with how to file electronically, get in touch with Joyce and she can walk you through that process. The other big thing that we'll still be doing is in the event that we have some notice of an event, let's say there's going to be flooding, or we know that there's going to be a major other type of weather event, we may be reaching out to you as we have in the past and saying, well, what are you doing to position yourselves so that once the disaster is over, you can assist our Marylanders? And I'm not saying that other states and your ability to assist them isn't very important, but here at the Maryland Insurance Administration, the people that we are focused on are our Marylanders. And we also know that sometimes if you wait a while to reach out to the companies, we might get your third or fourth string. We don't want your third or fourth string. We want the folks to help the Marylanders who understand and are able to answer their questions. So that's really part of the reason that you may get an email or a phone call from me saying, are you pre-positioned and are you ready to assist your policyholders? The other big thing that we continue to do is work very closely with our federal, state, and local partners so that if in fact an emergency occurs and there is widespread damage, we have been able to work through so that we can provide you, when necessary and when possible, access, because I know that's been an issue sometimes in the past, because local law enforcement may say, well, you can't get into a particular area. If you find that you have any issues at all with that, reach out to me. I have contacts with all of the emergency managers and most of the law enforcement. So I cannot guarantee that you'll be able to get into a particular area, but I can tell you that I will make every effort so that you can get access to that property. And one of the other things that we've been sort of working on, for those of you that have been around for a while, you know that sometimes there are other issues that may come up. If you find during the course of any of these disasters that they're either, whatever that issue might be, reach out to me and I can try to get you to the right person to assist you and sort of take care of or resolve what other barrier you may find that you're having when it comes to any portion of the disaster. So that's really sort of an overview of what we have been doing, what we'll continue to do. The main thing that we really want to stress is having open lines of communication, and be that either with me or with Robert. It's important that if we ask a question, it's not just because Robert and I are curious or want to create work for you. It's because we need a prompt. And let me emphasize that, a prompt answer. So if the disaster happens to occur on a Friday, it can't wait until Monday for an answer. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Craig and let him talk to you a little bit about our virtual disaster centers.
Thank you, Joy. I'm going to share my screen with the title page for our disaster center. Can everyone see that? So our virtual center is designed to replicate as much as possible the kind of in-person services the Maryland Insurance Administration provides at disaster centers. Because of emergencies like the coronavirus pandemic or restrictions for other reasons, in-person centers are not always open, but that need may still exist for a form of face-to-face interaction. Also, in our world of connection and online Zoom, some folks may prefer an online experience. Of course, in the hours or days following a disaster, consumers and business owners are looking for guidance, and the Maryland Insurance Administration is always available via telephone, email, or through our social media accounts. But sometimes folks just need to see and speak to another person face to face. That human contact can go a long way. We opened our first virtual center in response to severe flooding following damaging storms last October. We were able to assist approximately 60 consumers through that process. In our virtual center, anyone who wants to reach us is admitted to a main Zoom triage room where we greet them and find out what issue is facing them. Our center host then moves the person to a breakout room, either a general information room or a private room where they can speak with someone one-on-one. Before we go live with a virtual center, we create multiple Zoom breakout rooms. The number depends on the severity of the disaster and the estimated need. Maryland Insurance Administration personnel are assigned to particular rooms where they remain to meet with people who need our assistance. The staffers in the rooms may be equipped to answer general questions, or they may have expertise in certain topics. Again, this depends on the particular disaster that we're facing. We're currently looking at ways to expand access to our virtual centers and who would be part of these centers. The creation of this concept grew out of the COVID-19 emergency, but it will be useful even as we continue to move beyond the pandemic. Of course, we are mindful that anything virtual depends on internet availability, and we may encounter access issues. But we see this as just another useful tool that we can use to reach the people who need our services. Thank you.
Joy, I apologize for jumping into your agenda, but you knew I couldn't help myself with this one. And I just have to say how they're laughing, right? Because I drive them crazy. But this one in particular is near and dear to my heart. And I just want to thank Craig and Joy and their teams for the really hard work they've done with respect to this. This makes a real difference in the lives of people. And while it doesn't, not everybody can take advantage of it, it is really an amazing way for folks to be able to get to us in a much more personal way in the event of a disaster, not have to sit in long lines, at a disaster relief center, not have to travel, not have to, find the stuff in advance and then come to us and gee, they didn't have everything they needed. And so it really does meet, the needs of so many consumers. And what we are working on doing as sort of virtual disaster center 2.0 is to broaden that tent so that we're able to bring in more, government, local government services, perhaps almost a side room for carriers to each have a presence in their own rooms, to be able to bring in groups like the Red Cross, et cetera, so that we really can help be that big tent where someone can come and we'll have an MIA employee that's that kind of traffic cop in the middle that's moving people in and out. But this is an area of consumer service that I think makes such a difference. And I just wanted to give a shout out, particularly to Joy and Craig, for all the work they've done on this one.
Thank you, Commissioner, and thanks, Craig. So next we'll hear from Mary Jo Rogers, and she'll talk about how we will handle complaints that we receive or questions that we receive during a disaster.
Good afternoon, everyone. And again, I'm Mary Jo Rogers, and I'm the supervisor of the Rapid Response Program. The Rapid Response Program was started a number of years ago in an effort to try to quickly and informally handle complaints involving property and casualty claims. Everything is done informally by email. We don't require a lot of documentation. It's emails back and forth. We will email the complaint to the carrier, who then responds. Now, part of what we ask the carrier to do is to reach out to the complainant, open the lines of communication, and then provide us with a response. In the event of a disaster, the carriers that currently participate, which is quite a few of the property and casualty carriers, they're familiar with this process, and we will be forwarding the complaints to them through our portal as we usually do. What we do differently in the event of a disaster is that we would ask all carriers to participate in this process. That is one of the reasons why we need that important disaster contact for your company. I am going to be giving a call to that person if we receive a complaint that involves, and generally in disasters, it's going to be your customer, your policy holder. If we get in a complaint or an inquiry, they've suffered a loss, and they've come to us for some assistance in getting that loss, that claim settled and getting their life back to normal, I'm going to be reaching out to those disaster contacts. I'm then going to be emailing the complaint information, and we ask for a 2-day turnaround on the response. Because again, we don't need claim docs and claim logs and policies. We're looking to quickly reach out to your customer, to our Maryland citizens, open those lines of communication, gives the carrier a chance to review what is being done, to speak with your customer and start working towards resolving the claim, and then responding back to us, because we also are going to be speaking one-on-one to that policyholder, explaining their coverages, explaining the claim process. So I see us as working as a team to help get Maryland citizens back on their feet. But it is important, as Joy said, that we have that disaster contact, because even if you are not a participant in our rapid response program, you will be following a disaster. You will be getting a phone call from me. And I just want to add, if there's any carriers that currently do not participate in the rapid response program, all you need to do is reach out to me. I will go over that process. We'll get things set up. I can email you the protocols for the program, and we would love for any of the carriers that currently aren't participating to join us. I think most of the companies that have been doing this, and I think we go back to 2005 when we started the rapid response program, they're still in it. They're happy, they like it. It's an easy process for them. And if we get it resolved and closed out, it's not counted as a complaint. So it is an easy, very personable way to work with your policyholders, your customers, and get them back on their feet and moving forward to getting their life back to normal. And Joyce has posted my email. Just send me an email and I will be back. I'll reach back out to you promptly to speak with you about our rapid response program. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary Jo. And so now I'll turn it over to Robert, the Associate Commissioner for Property and Casualty, and he'll talk to you a few minutes about what we need as an agency from the carriers to help us assist Marylanders.
Thanks, Joy, and Mary Jo as well. Before I go right into it, just to dovetail off of something Mary Jo just kind of touched on at the end there, the Rapid Response Program works year-round, regardless of whether it's hurricane season or there's any disaster events that are in play. And it's a true benefit to our property and casualty insurers who participate in the program that those inquiries that are handled through rapid response, they frequently resolve satisfactorily without the initiation of a formal complaint in the property and casualty complaints unit. And so great benefit to you all for participating in the rapid response program. So to the extent that any of you may not have joined in, you should take Mary Jo up on that invitation. With respect to the disaster response program and what we need from our licensees, Joy stole my thunder a little bit when she touched on the theme of, in the aftermath of one of these events, we recognize that some of our licensees are regional or national, and they may be stressed by events around the country and not just here. But we truly want your A-team to respond, and to the greatest extent possible. What we have seen time and time again in disasters is that when an insurer has to rely on out-of-state resources or out-of-region resources to respond to claims here in Maryland, there are frequently problems. Every state, I'm sure, has their own set of claim handling statutes and guidelines and all of that. We really appreciate when an insurer has folks available who are up and running and familiar with Maryland's specific protocols in the aftermath of a disaster. And it helps you all out too, because inevitably when we have these resources that are not quite up to speed in the field, that's where problems arise and claim loss costs typically go up, not to mention potential compliance issues. And here in Maryland, unlike some other states, we don't license independent adjusters, right? We hold you all responsible for the actions of the independent adjusters that you all contract with. And so it's in everyone's best interest that the folks that you have out in the field are folks who are experienced with Maryland and our laws, rules, and regulations. The other item that I will mention, and I think I at least touch on this every year when we have this call, is that the single most important thing that a carrier can do in the aftermath of an event is to be present, visible and present. It's not always comfortable. In fact, it can be downright uncomfortable, not just the particular conditions, physical conditions that might exist, in the aftermath of an event, but the face-to-face interactions that take place. We are, knock on wood, we have been fortunate to dodge widespread geographic events in recent years. The events that we have had, for the most part, have been focused in smaller geographic regions. But when an event takes place and the local authorities set up a disaster response center, there are frequently town hall type meetings where people can come and ask questions and try to access resources. Your ability to be there for those things is appreciated, and not only by your customers, but when you're there and your competitor is not there, that says something about you to your potential customers. And to the greatest extent possible that you can be present, I think that it demonstrates a commitment to your policyholder base. You all know, in the lead up to and the immediate aftermath of an event, where your book of business is situated. So with today's technology, I think most, if not all of you, are able to pretty quickly know when disaster strikes, what your potential is for losses. And so when you see that you have a heavy presence in a particular area that has been hit, just should be first and foremost on your radar screen. How can we, not just help the people that we have this obligation to under our contract, but how can we be present for them? And to the greatest extent possible that you can do that, you show up with one of those giant RVs with your name on the side, or your adjusters with their metallic signs on the sides of their company vehicles. That's a great way for you to demonstrate your commitment and your presence. And I don't think it goes unnoticed. Certainly doesn't go unnoticed by us, because we're there. And I think it goes a long way towards you all being able to generate goodwill with your own policyholders, and just with the residents of the areas that are affected. And I think that's about it.
Thanks, Robert. And I just want to echo what Robert just mentioned. I recall a few years ago where we had one of these, basically we asked a bunch of the carriers to come, and most of them did, but one major carrier did not. And basically, now this was before widespread Facebook, but basically we saw a lot of comments in community newspapers, and I'm not sure if it was a billboard, but some other big sign that said, blank insurance company, where are you? So yes, it is truly noticed, and we appreciate it. And more importantly, I know that your policyholders appreciate it. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Associate Commissioner Quay, and so that she can talk a little bit about the need for data calls.
Thanks, Joy. And as Joy said earlier, it's really important for us to have open lines of communication. And that includes that we may make a data call through a bulletin or other communication system, because we have looked at what we're hearing from consumers, what we're seeing at DRCs, and we have decided that we need this data from a variety of carriers. And when we do that, we will need a response by the date specified. In each disaster, we will evaluate the circumstances to identify what is needed and to identify the response time that will get the information and to us in time to be helpful. We are mindful of the fact that your resources will also be strained. And so when we have made that assessment, it is based on the information that we really believe to be necessary and the time frame that we really believe to be necessary. And so we will appreciate a prompt response or at least communication if there is a problem in response to a data call. And that would come out of the market regulation area. Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. So the next thing we'll go to is the commissioner, and Craig, if you would let the commissioner know whether we received any pre-requests for questions or if there are any questions in the chat.
We did not have any pre-registered speakers.
So if anybody has any questions or comments now, we're happy to hear from you. If you just want to indicate in the chat that you'd like to be recognized. Nancy?
Sorry.
That's all right. Go ahead.
Good afternoon. And on the prior call, I wanted to first, I forgot to mention, I wanted to thank you and Robert for all the help you did last year in helping resolve the whole FR19 issue that was going on with the insurance verification system. So thank you for that. Just a question, Robert, do you still need carriers to reach out to you if they're using drones or apps for estimations?
Robert, you're on mute. We may have a technical issue, Nancy, so we may have to get back to you. Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
Yes.
you're back.
I don't know what has gone on here with my screen all of a sudden, but I have lost the actual picture. So, but at least you can hear me. No, so, you know, we had asked a few years ago for companies that are going to use, you know, newer state-of-the-art kind of technologies in claim handling like drones to keep us informed. Don't necessarily have a need at this time to inform me an individual situation, but if we don't know, you know, if you have those technologies available, we want insurers to use technology in safe, responsible ways. And so to the extent that it can assist your timeliness and your efficiency in claim handling following disaster, we encourage that. At the same time, we don't want to just say technology rules overall, and you know, we just finished stressing how important it is for you guys to actually be present, and so we value that above, I think, all else. I'm not sure if the commissioner has any thoughts about that.
I think Joy wants to say something.
And I just want to add, Nancy, that your folks, whoever, if you're in a particular, let's say it's Ellicott City, the locals may have restrictions with respect to use of technology. So just make sure that you're paying close attention to any restrictions that they have in place and be mindful of that. And if you aren't sure, you can reach out to me. But I know that sometimes they get very, after a disaster, they just are slow sometimes to open up total access.
Thanks, Joy. I
So,
appreciate it as
Nancy-
usual.
So my comment to you, Nancy, and to the whole industry is that I think that the more we're able to effectively use technology in order to deliver services more efficiently, the better. Subject to, of course, what Joy just said about the fact that people have to be able to access it. And any concerns ultimately that we have, I have less concern about the use of technology to identify property damage and other forms of damage, or to allow consumers to make claims, and more concerns about the use of certain digital decisional frameworks that seek to identify, fraudulent claims or those sorts of things. That's sort of what my main concerns are. But I think that one of the things that we would invite you guys to do, and we can think about the most efficient way to do this, is you can help us by educating us on what you are doing. So we're doing that at the NAIC, we're doing that at the national level, as we learn about what different companies are doing and how they're deploying technology and what those cutting edges are. But I would encourage carriers, either individually or through your trade associations, to give us a preview of what you're using, not so that we can bless it in the sense of, okay, let's sign off on this, but so that we can be better informed and better educated, that we can be a better interface when consumers come to us with questions. And frankly, so that I can take that information and use it constructively at the national level. So I would be very open to setting up a meeting time to talk about, different technologies that are available to help folks get things done and get them done faster and more efficiently using technology after a disaster.
Thanks, Commissioner. That's great news. And if any of my members share that, I'll make sure it gets sent along the way.
Any other comments or questions?
Not seeing anyone else in the chat, Commissioner.
Okay, well, let me just ask if anyone else at the administration has any other comments that they'd like to make. All right, well, hearing none there and seeing no additional questions or comments in the chat room, I just want to thank everybody for attending today. I think it was very helpful and constructive. And we will give you a little, an hour and 21 minutes of your life back. So everybody have a great day. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.